I'm Roy Olson, and I'm with RMS Early Grinder. I work as an applications engineer. Today we have John Webster on with the U.S. Biochar Initiative, and we're going to be talking a little bit about biochar and the biochar industry. Hi, John.
Hey Roy, thanks for having me today. Hey everybody. My name's John Webster. I'm with the U.S. Biochar Initiative. We are a nonprofit located in the United States. We're committed to the sustainable production and utilization of biochar throughout the U.S. So that's what we do.
Yeah, sounds great. Yes, I've looked at your website and there's a wealth of knowledge for everything and anything biochar. People who are looking to get started in biochar, it's definitely a good reference material for them to learn more about the industry and what they can do. So, starting it off, in what applications do you see biochar being used in?
That's a good question. We see biochar utilization primarily at this time in the agricultural space. That's probably where we have the largest adoption. Uh, we have very friendly federal funding available to growers through the NRCS program, which is called Code 336. It effectively pays for the installation, the purchase and installation of biochar into the soils. So that has definitely helped to drive the market, and so that's probably the number one space right now. And then after that, we now see an up and coming market for use in things like stormwater management. That's a big deal. So filtration, and then the other markets include things like cement, asphalt, built environment. So it's being literally being added into things like biodegradable plastics in agriculture and a number of things. So you have anything where you might use it from one type and size down to little micronized sizing. And we have a wide diversity of feedstocks that are available to us, especially in the United States. So, uh, effectively, if you're looking for for biochar that can fit a particular application, United States Biochar Initiative can certainly help you find that, and it is available. So, yeah, so that again, agriculture is our number one market though, because the U.S. is very committed to building soil health, and soil carbon is a critical part to that.
Definitely, yeah. It seems the biochar market's really growing. I just remember yesterday I was looking at the news and I seen kind of a name drop for biochar as a cement additive in Australia, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, it's crazy to see this on national news. Like
Uh,
this is really picking up some traction. So it's always exciting to hear new applications that biochar is being used for.
yeah,
So
it's getting used in
um,
printer filament as well. So like it's
yeah.
wild.
Yeah, it almost seems like every week I hear of a new application for biochar, and it's like, all right, this is exciting stuff. So, what are kind of some of the requirements for these applications for biochar? Like, what do for when you produce biochar, what do they need to get to kind of the end product for some of these applications?
So biochars can vary in so many ways. Okay, so there are automatic systems that'll process biochar. So you might have a continuous fed system. You might have a static system that does batch processing. So in terms of the requirements, typically you're looking at something that's I guess I should start out by saying biochar is a human-made charcoal that's suitable for use in agriculture, decarbonizing heavy industry,
Hmm.
all types of things. But it's not used as fuel, right? So that's kind of the big
Yep.
differentiator. It has an intended purpose and is made from the waste stream materials or low value non merchantable items. But that said, we have a
Mhm.
wide diversity of feedstocks available to us in this market. And so we can create the biochars from these materials that are made in the oxygen reduced environment. And they will have different physical characteristics to them. So if you are looking for a specific application, chances are we have somebody that's producing that type of biochar and you can find it. In terms of getting into the market, some of the things you need to be aware of is you want to find out and determine, is biochar going to be my primary product? Is waste management going to be my primary revenue generator? What about heating? What about power? Do I have a
Mhm.
contract for the feedstocks? And then also those carbon credits that we mentioned earlier. So one of the things that we want
Yep.
to make sure is that when people do enter into the biochar industry, that they understand that it's best to have a number of revenue opportunities so that way you can stay viable as a long-term
Mhm.
participant in the market. Um, there's kind of a default classification that's being utilized right now. Typically, it's produced at 350 degrees C. It may or may
Mhm.
not have a different residence time in order to stabilize all that carbon that comes from the original feedstock. But
Yep.
IBI standards are what we commonly refer to, International Biochar Initiative, for use in
Mhm.
soils. And since that's the kind of the top line market right now, it's what most producers are shooting for because that gets you into your carbon credit space, that gets you into the ag use space, and then it's also suitable across a number of other sectors. So yeah. So effectively, it's kind of, identify a need, identify an opportunity, and get in. And I tell you, the energy in this space right now, like you were talking about, you hear about new uses every day. It is kind of the Wild
Yep.
West. There, frankly, has never been a better time to get in the biochar industry than there is today.
Definitely. Yeah, it seems like it's definitely grown in popularity, and there's definitely like very scientific advancements within the industry. I've heard of people even like exploring it for electric car battery, like manufacturing of that product line as well. So it seems like there's a wealth of opportunity in the biochar space right now.
There is, and if I could add that there's also a wealth of science behind biochar. So there's well over
Yes,
30,000 technical and peer-reviewed papers and technical journal articles about
that's
biochar.
impressive.
So it's been a topic of study for many years now. It really was the mid 2000s when it actually got its name. It had a couple other names before that, like I think Agrachar, and
Yep.
so yeah, so it's been around a while. But it's turning out to be more and more kind of like the most durable solution for our climate concerns and one of the more
Yep.
empowered solutions for our agricultural needs. As a building material, you can add it to art supplies, makeups, cosmetics, like all that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
it's it's really wild. There's so many opportunities right now. That said, we are working on addressing markets, right? That's one of the USBI's primary
Yep.
objectives. We do want to make sure that we have space for the physical material itself. Let's find a way to sell it
Yep.
because, we had good fortune in it. The carbon credits came along. That really
Yep.
strongly incentivized a lot of folks to get into the space and start, or at least start looking into it. Now, beyond that, we have that one primary, that financial driver. Now we need the other side of the market. Like there are a lot of folks that'll buy carbon credits long before they'll buy the physical biochar itself. But just a reminder, if you're watching
Mhm.
this, you can install biochar at your home. You can use it in your garden plants inside. Even if you're an apartment dweller, you can use it. But talk to your municipalities about using it. So some of the things that we are focused
Yep.
on in terms of market is how do we increase the market size, right? What are we doing to
Mhm.
achieve that? And one of those things is that we develop fact sheets, and you can find these fact sheets at the biochar-us.org website. So we have application guidelines, we have information on how to apply for the funding, we have information on how to understand the labs. I don't know if you've ever seen a biochar lab report, but they can feel a little confusing when you first look at them. We have a clear document on how to understand it and what it means to you. We're working with the NRCS on additional programs like the Biochar Atlas, which is a classification tool. They are also working on things like a calculator that helps you understand how much you would apply to certain areas. These tools are intended to integrate with other federally established programs like the Web Soil Survey. So when you're trying to make your decision purchase on how to buy biochar, you can figure out which one makes the most sense, what's suitable for your needs, and what you might expect from the benefits it will provide. So, again,
Definitely.
all this friendly policy from recent years has really been helpful. There are some tax incentives out there. There are webinars that we reference on our LinkedIn page that talk about some strong tax incentives. Again, new market. This really again, it feels a little bit of a Wild West, but there's such a presence in the fact that it's transitioning from something that just even a handful of years ago was mostly enthusiast driven, and it's now moved into enterprise. So, we're going from hundreds of acres to thousands of acres, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of acres with biochar applied to it. And eventually it'll hit the millions of acres and millions of tons of biochar being implemented into soils, and then even more when we see the addition to things like asphalt and concrete, path and pad. There are not a lot of non-critical structures that can very easily use biochar. One of our board members utilizes biochar. Uh, she used it as a fill material inside her septic system. So
Oh, yeah.
when it comes down to it, biochar is carbon. It's a simple element, but it offers many elegant solutions to the issues that we're facing in modern times. So it's quite the opportunity, frankly.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting stuff. The more you kind of like look at it, you kind of peel back them layers of, you know, the positives that it does for the environment, the sustainability aspect. It's exciting. I agree with that. It's very exciting where it can go. So
Yeah, it's
yeah. So yeah, how does like a biochar producer like bridge that gap to the end user? I know it's kind of you mentioned like the Wild West. Like how does like a producer like get connected with end users? What does that look like?
that can be something as simple as starting out like with farmers markets. But more advisable because we are interested in scaling the industry, it would be finding ways to address bulk opportunities. So we strongly encourage everyone to get familiar with their local NRCS agents. Get to know your conservation agronomist. Identify who your technical service providers are inside the area. Look for folks that are in compatible industries. So, for example, the compost industry is very compatible. There are so many benefits of adding biochar into compost. And frankly, there are a lot of composters that are looking at getting into the biochar space because they are so complementary to each other. But
Mhm.
start, research your market, do some of the work, find out what the benefits are, especially if they're primary needs in your general area. So, are you addressing drought? Are you addressing soil carbon? Are you addressing, maybe there's an excess of nitrogen, or maybe you have mine sites and you need to do some heavy metal restoration efforts after a mine or a well's been closed. So, identify what those kind of nearby needs are, and then also look to how you can get involved with like the larger distributors. And there are another number of commercial distributors out there. In the past, and here's one of the things that is really changing. In the past, those larger distributors, folks that might be were interested in utilizing biochar as a material for their end products, they did not feel that there was a suitable supply available to them. That has literally changed, especially in the last year, as we've seen more producers come online. Again, those carbon markets are driving a lot of this because there's revenue opportunity there that can help keep you healthy when you pair it with your other processes. Another thing I'd like to point out, and you can look this up from the USBI website, is looking at insetting. So for a lot of these folks, they have decarbonization goals, right? They have fiduciary responsibilities to their shareholders, so they need to decarbonize effectively their supply chain. Biochar is an excellent way to do that, and a number of ways you can do that is by utilizing the process heat, making use the biochar for your own needs. Let's say you're an ag producer and you have all this acreage. Well, and you're making biochar out of your residues. Well, invest that biochar back into soil carbon and show how you're offsetting your your carbon accounting across the board. To the public and the shareholders. And again, communicating about this is kind of a big deal. You want to make sure that you're communicating benefit and value. Biochar is an
Yep.
investment and not a cost. It's an investment and not a cost because what we're doing is we're utilizing it to put into soils. Where it tends to return back, especially for a lot of farming applications. Often the utilization or implementation of biochar can pay itself back on water savings or changes in crop yield within just a couple of years. So there's a good number of studies that support that as well. So, but again, in order to get into the markets, you kind of have to know your local, start local, and then start looking regional and national. You know, get those
Mhm.
contracts in place, find out who you can help. You know, even landfills utilize things like biochar as a way to do leachate control. So, and
Yep.
stabilize the sites of the landfill as well. So there's, there's, it's again, back to that whole statement, it's carbon, it's a simple element. It has many solutions and more that are being thought up every day. So again, figure out your
Yep.
niche, you know, size it appropriately. So that way, you know, you can say, look, we've got this micronized material, we've got chunk material, like we can make it available to you in all these different sizes, shapes, consistencies. If you need it
Yep.
pre-treated or post-treated, like somebody out there has a need. It's now just an issue of where we can get the communication pathway going in both directions. So if you do get into
Mhm.
the biochar space, I would encourage you to get a listing at the USBI website under our directories. We do have listings available. So that will help people find you as well.
Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely seems there's the industry is all kind of driven towards a common goal. It doesn't seem like anybody's kind of selfish or like concealing information. It seems like people in the biochar industry want to help each other and they kind of have this like mission of, sequestering carbon and really like doing a positive impact on the place we live. So that's really exciting. It's good to see that people, working together from different companies, kind of driving towards the common good. Um, that's that's one thing that really attracted me to the biochar space was just that overall like net learning opportunity. Like everybody's willing to share how to like support and help one another within the industry. So
Yeah, I agree. The community is strong. It's very strong. We do have a forum, so and there's information about that. We also have a monthly newsletter, so if you want to keep up on the latest and greatest in the news, as well as our social channels. Um, Again, community is important. There is a reason to do this. It's work that you can feel good about. Everybody. I have kids, and I feel wonderful in knowing that I can say, "Look, I'm working on something that builds."
Mhm.
You can use it when you're building buildings. You can use it to grow big crops and feed people. It's reducing the amount of pollution in the air. It's a feel good. It's a win all the way around, and it's an investment in their future. So it just makes sense.
All right. Well, thanks, John, for all the information. It was great having you on and learning more about the biochar space and kind of the industry itself.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Roy. It was a real pleasure today. Again, John Webster, the U.S. Biochar Initiative. Please sign up for our newsletter, and thanks again, Roy.
All right. Thank you, John.